Get in, losers. We're watching It, Welcome to Derry, Episode 6, titled In the Name of the Father. Our 1962 losers are falling apart. We get a big reveal of an important part of It's backstory. Dick Halloran sees even more ghosts, and all roads are leading to the black spot. My name is Eric Vespe.
I'm Anthony Breznican.
And we are your hosts. Before we dive into the Welcome to Derry stuff, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Blackmagic Design, the makers of the cameras and the makers of the cameras and post-production tools behind some of the most cinematic horror you've ever seen. And one of the companies that helped create the It universe with Blackmagic's DaVinci Resolve. They use that for post-production on both It and It Chapter 2. And many of the Chainsaw Award winners and nominees, including The Substance, Final Destination, Bloodline, Screamboat Willie, Longlegs, and 28 Years Later, Hollywood-level power without the Hollywood price. Learn more at blackmagicdesign.com.
Eric, I feel like I need to contribute to the read in some way. Should I sing a jingle for Blackmagic? What should I do?
Yeah, but you have to make it
dance?
like a 1960s jingle, though, something extremely catchy, some like Jolly Green Giant kind of level of catchy. So if you want to come up with that for episode 7 before the end of the run, that'll be great.
I'll work on that. I'll put on my Don Draper hat and come up with some copy.
Do it. Well, my God. So we're heading towards.
We're in it.
We're headed towards it. We're in the end game now, as they would say in the MCU. So I mentioned that the losers are falling apart. That's one aspect of this episode. The other aspect is kind of a big reveal with Mrs. Kersh. That is the big finale. And you also kind of have the setting of the stage for the black spot, which, if you're familiar with the book, doesn't have a great end, and kind of, at least in the book, marks the tragedy that befalls the black spot marks the end of this cycle. So lots of things are happening. We only have a few more episodes left. So this is 6 of 8. So we got 2 more.
It is, and the bookends for this episode are pretty haunting. We start in 1935 in black and white. We cast back to this different era. We see Mrs. Kersh as the nurse in Juniper Hill from a different time, different era, and then it ends in a very ominous way with the arrival of these sort of white bigots showing up, a posse of them outside of the black spot, and there's no music at the end. It's just dread.
Right.
They just leave you with this sense of like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And you're in that holding pattern until the next episode, and it's pretty bleak, I think. But let's start at the beginning, since that's always the best place. What did you make of this sort of glossy film noir version of Derry that we see as Mrs. Kersh takes this helpless little Mabel into the basement to say, where did you say they're going to meet that clown?
I loved the look of this. I think this is really neat. They're of course taking a little page from Schindler's List, which maybe some folks might not like, but I do like the idea. I mean, listen, it's kind of obvious that having the red balloon against the black and white background.
Yeah,
the color red appears on the bookend part as well, but in a different form. That of the blood of that little girl. But I think it's all for the same effect. I think it's interesting that they chose to shoot this way in particular, because the other time we've seen a flashback to even earlier, right? I think it was the 1908 cycle was when General Shaw was a little boy, right?
Right.
They didn't go black and white for that, but they went very Val Lewton and classic, black and white horror for the opening here. Yeah, I thought it was a cool choice.
It's funny. You're right. Schindler's List had that profound moment where you see a little girl in a red coat. Right. I remember watching that. She's in the crowd, and it comes late in the movie. Her appearance is at least maybe the midway point, and I remember my eyes. Seeing that and wondering if my eyes were deceiving me. Like, it was so faint at first in Schindler's List, the red, and then you realize why he does that later when you see the coat in a pile of bodies, essentially, and what happened to her. I didn't think of Schindler's List, honestly, with the Welcome to Derry. I thought of it more of Sin City, where you have the because it was a little more, it felt a little more film noirish,
right?
The way it was being shot,
right.
More stylized, a little more Frank Miller than Steven Spielberg, but. But I take your point too, and I like watching this made me go, these balloons that they use, that Pennywise conjures, are really high quality balloons. They have a really good texture to them. If you look at it, it's sort of a blood red, right? So there's this steep set reflective crimson. But I was like, wow, he really buys top tier balloons where he's not just going to Party City and buying the cheap bag. He's, and this is a guy who uses a volume business when it comes to balloons, and he always goes for the top tier. So hats off to Pennywise for keeping quality control high.
It makes a difference. Obviously, people might say it's a little bit too much of the balloon budget for Pennywise, but you know what? It makes up. He makes up for it in volume.
It's those little touches that make the difference. Yes, he's eating poor Mabel, but he really takes that clown business seriously and gives it his all. So we don't know where this is headed, but do you still think Mrs. Kersh is a force for light, Derek?
Well, after this episode, I don't. Well, what's interesting about Mrs. Kersh here, and this adds so much to the lore as well, because we were discussing in the last episode whether the Mrs. Kersh that appears for Beverly is a twist on this Mrs. Kersh. And I, yes, I think obviously now they're establishing that Mrs. Kersh is a very troubled person, but ultimately I don't think she's evil, at least not in the way that's I think the easy way out. She's like, well, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Your friends, whatever, as long as I get to see my father again. What's interesting, the big reveal here, we're jumping a little bit to the back end already, but the big reveal is that Lily, her whole world is falling apart. She's breaking up with the losers again, and, she's still seeing visions of her dead father and her desk now, even though she has this weapon to fend off Pennywise. He can still drive her crazy, or in the eyes of the rest of the school. And so she keeps having these moments, and she goes to find solace in Mrs. Kersh, who's the only adult that believes her and has been kind to her. She goes, I don't know what Mrs. Kersh was doing, but she left her door open and a record playing in the attic where all of her clown secrets are. And the reveal is that some of what we thought was Pennywise earlier is actually Mrs. Kersh, who was a little girl clown in that circus flashback, and it's revealed that Bob Gray is her father, and Bob Gray is played by Bill Skarsgård. It's definitely the look. We talked a little bit about this also in a previous episode about the novel being a little unclear on Pennywise as Bob Gray, like that persona. But it looks like Bob Gray was a real dude, probably a really nice guy, and this is just a girl who misses her father, and who I guess maybe we're gonna see was the Pennywise and that inspired the look. So yeah.
Well, he definitely did, because Lily sees that photograph of him, and he's got the clear line, like the bald cap,
right?
Real Pennywise doesn't have that, but he's got the sort of curly Q smile that Pennywise adopts. So it's pretty clear to me, and I wonder what your feeling is about the general audience for the show, the casual viewers. Do you think right now they're wondering, is Mrs. Kersh, is Madeline Stowe's character actually the daughter of Pennywise, like the creature's daughter, or are they aware, as we are, that what she actually is a real person who had a real human father that Pennywise is just imitating, mimicking?
I think there's going to be confusion about it, but I also feel like this is inevitably going to a giant flashback where we're going to get to know the kindly, good circus performer.
Yeah.
That it's just too rich of an idea to leave off the table for a TV series like this. Again, I'm saying this. I haven't seen any of the episodes. From here, every week's fresh for me, so I'm not speaking from a place of knowledge on this one. But it also feels to me like, even though when we interviewed the Muschiettis, they were like, "Oh, we never would have done this without Bill." I seem to remember Bill coming on was a very late addition. At least it was a late announcement. Maybe he was always on, but he's on as executive producer. I feel like the meat that you dangle to somebody like Bill Skarsgård is like, you're gonna not just get to play the clown, you're gonna get to play, this other side of it, and have full ownership of it. So,
well, when I did an interview with the Muschiettis, separate from when we talked to them on our show on the Kingcast, they said Bob Gray, like Bill Skarsgård loves Bob Gray, and we're gonna see. We got a taste of Bob Gray in this episode when he looks through the glass, the window in the locked basement door, and you see this sort of bald guy. What is that accent? What would you say? It's a very folksy kind of Midwestern ramble.
Yeah, I couldn't really place it. I mean, they have to, if they're tying it back to the kind of creepy old woman that we saw in It Chapter 2, and she uses like old world. So she doesn't say my father, she says my father, my father, and what she says again in this episode, by the way. So there's got to be a little of whatever that is leaking into maybe that mid-Atlantic accent,
Yeah, it strikes me as more Midwestern for some reason. Like, that's sort of like a, I don't know, it's a musical way about it, but also flatness. Anyway, he seems to be just sort of like a schlub, right? Like this sort of sweaty, middle-aged hustler who dresses as a children's entertainer. And I love that he calls himself Pennywise the Dancing Clown. It's not that it came up with that name. It just appropriated that. There's some, among its many crimes is copyright infringement. It's just gonna copy paste you. Yeah, he's just gonna plagiarize you.
I'm just saying, ITAI, 2 letters.
Yep.
There's parallels there. Just got to say, you can't have that murderous clown without the nice Bob Gray first, right?
But
just taking other creative ideas. Yeah.
And if you notice in the intro that everybody loves for the show, as it flashes back to early points in Derry's history, you don't see the clown until later, and so it's clear that the clown persona was picked up just more as a recent development for Pennywise. So you got to figure that this creature, this shape-shifting entity, saw Bob Gray as Pennywise the Dancing Clown and thought, that's some freaky shit. I'm going to scare some kids with this bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that is some disturbing action. And then he's got the little girl, Periwinkle, who is kind of adorable as a clown. Like the little girl with the white spiked hair. Like that, she's not very, I mean, it's a little scary because the white ghostly face and everything is naturally intimidating, but she's sort of cute. Like if that kid came and knocked on your door for Halloween, you'd give her an extra peanut butter cup, for creativity.
Yeah.
But I love that Madeleine Stowe character has this stuff sort of like she's still playing dress up with it,
and she still has gone out. We find out that the clown that appeared in the cemetery, if you noticed, it doesn't quite have Pennywise's hairstyle. It's more pointy, and then you kind of find out that she's been ghosting these kids, essentially, or not ghosting. That's a wrong term for this generation, but like shadowing these kids, and in hopes that they will. Them meddling with all this stuff will bring the clown out because she thinks that she can get her father back. I guess by appealing to this entity. I don't think she quite has a full understanding of what this is. She still thinks her dad's in there, and so that's what I like about this is that the reveal is just like, I really don't care if my bait dies, so I am evil in that respect. But like, no, honey, I'm just here, I'm just kind of using you to get back to my father. It's totally fine.
She's clearly a broken person. But What that bit with Mabel in the basement reminded me of is like a little kid who sees a spider web, like a bad little kid who throws like another bug into a spider web to see the spider come out of its hidey hole. And I feel like that's what she was doing there. Nothing personal, Mabel, but you don't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. You don't catch a fish without a worm on the hook, and that's you today, Mabel.
Well, I honestly don't think that she intended. Like, she went in that fully going, oh, I'm not going to let this little girl get hurt. But the second that, like, it became inconvenient when they were running and Mabel tripped, she's like, she pulls the girl from Scary Movie, just like, bye,
See you later.
Sorry,
yeah.
It sucks to be you.
What's that old joke about the two guys in the woods and a bear starts charging them and one goes, come on, man, we got to run. What are you doing? And the other guy's putting on his tennis shoes and tying up the laces. He's like, what are you doing? We got to outrun that thing. He goes, no, I don't have to I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you.
Yep.
So she outruns Mabel. She does seem genuinely horrified that the little girl gets turned into, a Lunchable for it. but she also
pool of red jelly. There's the red callback again. When all the blood under the door.
But she's super happy to see her dad. Like, that immediately washes away the blood that's seeping under the door. Seeing her dad, like,
and you see her, she literally
wants.
Steps into the puddle again and like doesn't acknowledge it once she sees it. But that door, by the way, went from like having a small crack at the bottom to the child being able to fit both of her hands fully underneath the door. Did you notice that fucking bullshit? Look at that.
I thought bullshit. She was holding on to the hands, and I thought, oh, these hands are coming off. Like, that's the. but they've already pulled that trick.
Again? Yeah.
They already pulled that trick. As Bugs Bunny once said, it's a great trick, but it only works once.
Yep.
The word I wrote in my notes was acolyte. She is part of a tradition in horror of the character who's not the monster. Isn't even the one responsible, but is the person enthralled by the monster. And that is, let's say, Renfield from Dracula is a perfect example.
Yeah.
In King's books, the one I was thinking of is Trash Can Man.
Yeah.
My life for you, right?
Yep.
You've got this, they're not the same character, Mrs. Kersh and Trash, but they have the same sort of blind adherence, worship of this creature that sends them on a self-destructive path, and they come back expecting to be rewarded. And instead they get consumed just as any other victim. Yeah. So I think Mrs. Kersh is, I'm not sure where she's headed. We know that old lady that Bev sees in It Chapter 2 is not the living Mrs. Kersh, because she'd be 135 years old. Right. But I think, again, Pennywise copies her, takes on that persona, knows this kindly old lady is one that'll get under Bev's skin. But she's an acolyte. She's a Renfield. She's a Trash Can Man. She's offering her life, her soul for you to get her dad back. And it made me think how it really is a vampire story. He's not drinking blood per se, although he takes a bite here and there. Mm-hmm. He's feeding off of fear, but he's siphoning it the same way Dracula siphons blood. Mm-hmm. And he has his Renfield, and he has his favorites that he enthralls and seduces. And there's a team of people who get together, led by Van Helsing in the Bram Stoker book, led by Bill Denbrough in King's book, and Lily, and I don't know, who would you say is the leader of this crew, the 62 Bluesers?
They don't really have one. I mean, at some point...
They're a little decentralized, right?
Yeah, it's definitely way more chaotic. Stuttering Bill was the default leader. He, that was the Chris Chambers of that group. He was the one where it's like, yes, of course, he's the one, that's organizing all the chaos of all the other kids. But here, it's like, I think Lily is kind of the default main character because we've spent more time with her and her backstory. But, she's a broken person herself. Like Marge, kind of stepping up right now to be the more the heart of the group, which is interesting. You wouldn't have called that in the first episode.
No.
So I don't know. This maybe, and this is the reason why these losers won't succeed in 1962. It's because they don't form fully, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we're going to see things come to a head in the next episode. The Black Spot is under siege. I think we're going to learn a lot more about Bob Gray and Periwinkle. And then that leaves one more episode, episode 8. And I'm kind of curious where that denouement will go. I have a feeling the next episode is really going to wrap up a lot of this cycle. And then the one after that is, again, I haven't seen that episode yet. So my guess is we're going to get more of a connection to whatever is coming next for it. Welcome to Derry. I'll look back, a sideways move to 1935, perhaps.
Yeah, because if the rabble is gathering around the doors of the Black Spot now, that really should be the exclamation point on this cycle, right? So, So yeah, if that's happening now, and it's happening in a kind of a weird and interesting way. Did you notice that, when Chief Bowers, who instigated this guy who's been fairly middle of the road and progressive as a chief, and buckling to the powers that be when he needs to, but not going out of his way to be a despicable bigot, right? What's he do? He comes up and he's just like, no, I guess I've been muscled out of my job here, so I'll tell you this tip, this hot tip I got everybody with the pitchforks and the shotguns and the torches. So he kind of, I don't know if they're gonna jump into this, but maybe he's viewing, his kindness there, or his attempt at civility, between, for people other than those that share his own skin tone. Maybe he's viewing that as something that had lost him his job. And maybe he's looking at that, and maybe that's kind of where, because what he's doing here isn't the act of somebody who's kind of neutral. He knows exactly what's going to happen when he tells everybody that that there's a kind of protected spot for black crewmen where the black escaped convict or whatever that they're all hunting for and think killed a bunch of white kids are. He knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, he wasn't all that nice to begin with, Chief Bowers, but now there's definitely no more Mr. Nice Guy. He's not even... I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think his actions previous to this were not unreasonable. If you were a police chief, you would look at these circumstances and say, this guy probably did it. But now it's clear that he's pushing a vendetta, that he's succumbing to some darker impulses, uglier impulses, and he seemed more than happy to send this lynch mob. What else can you call it? To the Black Spot.
Yeah, and if you know the book, this isn't going to end super duper well. But it's going to be. It's very interesting to me because one of the other big moments I think from this episode is even more stuff with Dick Halloran. Where he's kind of talking about his. We called it the Dr. Sleep boxes in his head, and he goes into that story. He has a confrontation with Leroy, but I think that what's really interesting is he makes the same choice when all the ghosts come flooding back. What does he do? He goes to the bottle. Which is maybe on the nose, but that's exactly what Jack Torrance did. We get in the book, it's kind of established that maybe he shined a little bit as well, and he was using the alcohol to kind of numb himself to it, and that's exactly what Danny Torrance does in Dr. Sleep. So I thought that was a nice little bit of King knowledge there, just of course, what's Dick Halloran do when all the ghosts are released again, and he starts seeing them everywhere again? He's gonna try to drown it out with alcohol.
Yeah. I'm keen to see what Chris Chalk does after the Black Spot, because Dick's a big part of saving those who were able to be saved. I think in King's book, he mentions that old Dick Halloran almost has this a sixth sense about getting through that smoke and knows the right way to go. So, so I like that. I like the ghosts he's seeing. I'm not sure who they are. I'm not sure he knows that, but he's seeing the guy with the blown off face, clearly like another pilot who died and whose spirit is wandering. And he comes so close to the Haley Joel Osment line. Did you notice? He's like, I see, what does he say? Like, I see people who are dead. Something like that.
Don't sue me, M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
Yes. But it's a similar type character, right? He's seeing this and doesn't want to, and sometimes they're scary.
Right.
And, yeah. Oof. And in Derry, no one who dies here really dies, as Mrs. Kersh says. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be a lot of ghosts walking around that town.
Gotta be. I mean, I do think that it's kind of neat that we're showing that, like, the younger Dick Halloran kind of had all this shit under control. This is a little bit of fan service I like. I like the idea, less that, like, oh, we're going to make Dick Halloran a big part of this because he was mentioned offhand in the book, and more that now we're going to say, all right, if he's going to be part of this, we're going to let Pennywise be the thing that triggered his shining to go, fucking haywire. Right. And kind of set up that the reason why, the ghosts are have an effect. I don't know, just sets up The Shining in a way that I think is smart and interesting and fan servicey without just being a, hey, remember when you like this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
I think you're right. The whole expansion that they've done around the black spot has been pretty satisfying for this, for me at least. And I tend to have an aversion to the fan fiction adaptations of King, but this felt like people who really got the book and really cared about it and wanted to color in the lines and expand the canvas. Right. But I'm kind of on board to see where it goes. I like, and I love the little film references too. It's clearly Pennywise is shaped by pop culture, right? He takes the form of monsters that kids see in the movies, and we got the Music Man in this series, and creepy songs. Like Pennywise is a fan of entertainment. He's a showman when you get right down to it.
Greatest showman, one might say. Yeah.
And the series does some nice touches when Lily has her confrontation with Mrs. Kersh and slashes her hand, get her away, and Mrs. Kersh reaches for her, and then we see Lily pedaling away. You've got that red handprint, like so clearly, like the 5 fingers on her back, which reminded me of Fritz Lang's M. Which, if people haven't seen, because it's an older movie, you should just definitely go find that one. It's a classic, where people in the underworld are upset that their carefully crafted gambling operations and booze, bootlegging and prostitution, all of these sort of vices that they indulge in are being upended because there's a child killer on the loose in Berlin, and the police are desperate to solve that crime, so they're rousting everybody, trying to find who this creep is. And so the criminals join forces against this child killer, and they mark him so they can track him with like a handprint. And I just thought the handprint on her back reminded me of that film, and with Pennywise being a devourer of little kids, it seemed sort of like at least on a parallel track.
Yeah, no, I can see that's definitely a cinephile Easter egg, but it's absolutely right. Somebody is marked. Although I don't think Lily's the main the main culprit. Unlike oh shit, what's his name? The guy with the bug eyes, Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre
and M. Yeah, no, he. It's interesting how we're looking at a lot of black and white, noirish cinema. Who you're talking about that for the opening? You're talking about the illusions there. I wonder if that was one of the benchmarks, one of the keystones for this episode. Because when you're making a TV series, you're going to want each episode to have its own identity, right? And so you'll base different episodes on different themes and different inspiration. So I'm with the Music Man, you have the Technicolor start kicking off this stuff, and then you do have that stark crime black and white feel for this one. It just kind of goes to show where the strengths of leaning in a long form are with that
Yeah.
kind of thing, where it doesn't have to be one predominant flavor. You can have the losers be as messy as they are here, where you can have, the first 4 episodes, one of the key members of the club now, was just the bully, or on the fence of being a bully, and now, she's just kind of sticking around and having meet cute moments with the little boy that has been in love with her since we first were introduced to him. And they have a meet cute moment over a disgusting, nearly gouged out eyeball, which is,
But that's true love, man.
It is. It is. It's
I
very
love that.
cute.
I thought it was. I love that they're exploring this, the sort of tentative steps toward affection and love that kids make toward each other at that age. Nothing over the top, but just when the mom catches her. Not Lil. What's the other girl's
Ronnie.
name? Ronnie and
Will
and Hanlon. Why am I blanking?
Yeah,
Will.
Yeah.
So we just thank you so much for kickstarting my faulty brain. But Ronnie and Will are just sort of like holding each other's arms, and you think there's about to be a little puppy love kiss, and the mom is like, "Get in the car." I'm like, I love that. That is fantastic.
And then she goes, "Get in the car," and then where she takes him to go meet she's harboring a fugitive at the black spot, but she takes Ronnie to see her dad, which is another very sweet moment, where he kind of interrogates Will, because he senses right away, he's like, oh yeah, no, this kid has a thing for my daughter. But he kind of, he has a great moment there, Hank does, where he's like, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I'm, it makes me feel a little bit better that somebody like you's looking out for my girl, right?
I like that. I hate the dads that are like, let me show you my gun collection. And, it's like, especially for kids that age, like, come on. Yeah. It's good that you urge the kid to be respectful and be nice, and that's all you got to do. I hate that sort of intimidation thing. So I like that the dad was like, all right, you seem like a good kid. Like, just be good to my daughter, and we'll be fine.
He passed the important test because, as you remember, Hank is the projectionist. He is the movie geek in this town, right? He's the one that was grilling his daughter about Leading Men and stuff in the first episode. And one of his first questions to Will is, "What's your favorite movie?" And I didn't think we were going to get the answer because they cut away to another storyline. I'm like, oh no, like I want to hear. But Will essentially decides on the War of the Worlds film. I guess that would have been the 50s version. Yeah. He was saying that was one of his favorites that he saw, and Hank's like, good answer, and I'm just like, yeah, good answer, kid.
Yeah,
you got your head on right. Yeah,
I like that too. Yeah, maybe he should have said M.
Yeah,
Any kid who says that's their favorite movie is one who probably belongs in Juniper Hill. But
Double Indemnity to keep with the noir.
M also, just to go back to this and put a button on it.
Yeah.
In Fritz Lang's films, you're not going to show a child being murdered, right?
Yeah.
But it has the famous montage of the kid bouncing the ball on the street, and then the kid is gone, and the ball is bouncing alone. Down the street, and that's a very haunting image, but a very Pennywise image, right?
100%.
Pennywise, the boat going down the stream. In King's book, he describes after the murder of Georgie, the boat goes through the sewer system into the river, into the Mississippi, and then off into infinity. It's probably still sailing out there somewhere because they built it so sturdily with that paraffin wax.
Yeah.
But I love that notion of like the kid's toy drifting away from them, and the kid is gone. It's very haunting and heartbreaking.
Yeah, the balloon could be representative of that too. Yep.
Very much. Very much. Well, what else shall we say about this episode? We covered it pretty fast.
We did. We kind of went through it on speed mode here, but maybe that's just because we're recording this shortly before Thanksgiving, and we're ready to unbutton the jeans and eat some ridiculous amount of food and do all that stuff. But I think that we could end this chat by talking about overall feeling of where the show is going. We're in like I said, we're in the end game now. We're leading into the finales here, and like what is your feeling of the show at this particular moment? 6 episodes into 8.
Well, I'm enjoying it, and I think they're really testing and exploring what Pennywise is. We're going to learn more about this cage that keeps him in Derry.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that cage will be broken. That's a good question. What that means. Whether the Pennywise that we encounter in the 80s in Andy Muschietti's movie, first movie, It Chapter 1, is that an unleashed Pennywise? Is the next cycle worse because the protective force that the native tribes put around this place is broken? I don't know. I think it's pretty clear. General Shaw is not going to recruit Pennywise into the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
I don't think Pennywise is going to be putting on the uniform anytime soon. And so his motivation and how Pennywise gets out of that particular trap is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I imagine it'll be dissipated. That whatever happens will have to, you got to chase away the military. They can't be coming back and reapproaching and continuing to try to harness this creature. So something has to happen there that where Pennywise uses that old black magic to fade the memories of all of the soldiers and engineers that are trying to hunt for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously that still needs to wrap up, but I really think that it's going to win me over, this whole military thing, which has been, a little bit of the sand in the craw.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's still, I'm liking it more than I did at the beginning, but it also still feels like, shoving a square peg through a round hole a little bit.
A little bit
To me. But that said, one of the things that I'm going to really like about it, if they do end up going this way, is if through all this stuff we have the military there, they've gone in the sewers, they got instantly pretty much wiped out. If they have like this big confrontation and they try to capture it, it should just be like, oh, okay, this is what happens when adults try to fight this thing, and it's just like everybody instantly fucking dead. If you sent this whole thing in the army, it's just crumbles instantly, and it's up to these kids who actually believe in the power and know the power to maybe put things right and let it go and slumber for the next 27 years without escaping the bounds. Because I don't think it escapes, because if it did, then it would have had total free reign over the entirety of the lands outside of Derry, and I don't get that feeling in the 80s cycle or the modern day cycle. So
yeah, well,
so something's gonna still keep him there, I think.
I wonder if we're gonna get a Raiders of the Lost Ark moment where the government decides we're just gonna have some top men look at this. And then it goes into a box, and that box goes into a bigger box, and nobody ever thinks about it again.
I wonder if it's all gonna tie into the black spot being, because there's gonna be tragedy there. Already it's established in the book that many people lost their lives. I wonder if they're just gonna incorporate lives lost in the Pennywise pursuit, into that figure, and then just go. I don't have any idea what Shaw was up to there. He talks a little bit about how it's not like the Pentagon is observing them step by step through this. He's off kind of doing his own thing here.
It's kind of a Black Ops thing.
Yeah, so
off the books at least.
If a tragedy is befalling many airmen, especially during the height of the civil rights fight here, I can see the army going, okay, it was just bigots and killed everybody that's missing is just somehow died at the black spot fire, and then they move on. That'd be my guess. Again, I haven't seen anything going forward, so that's a complete guess on my part, but since I've been so right by calling Mrs. Kersh the Agent of Light, which my guesses are always right on the mark, is what I'm saying. Even when they're wrong, they're right.
Yeah,
that's my special.
Yeah, I think you were meant to trust her in that first episode, and as I said, we see her twice in that episode. We see the little clown in the background.
Yeah,
and I think if you watch it again, you get a different perspective on her. But that's part of Pennywise's appeal, is that he, the clown is meant to be endearing at first, and then you learn.
We do indeed. So going forward, I would assume we're gonna get the Bill Skarsgård showcase. I feel my guess is going forward. We're gonna get that Bob Gray episode. He's gonna have a lot of fun playing that stuff. I like that that now that Pennywise is revealed, that he's still now popping up regularly. I like that he gets at least a scene. Because we were talking about the patience in previous episodes, patience of people waiting for Pennywise. Because, it takes many forms. All that stuff is totally valid, but I also remember little me getting so excited that Freddy Krueger was getting his own TV show, and then you'd watch it, and the motherfucker just introduced random episodes of shit that had nothing to do with him. I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't want this. I want my Freddy Krueger. I think they know that they teased long enough that they couldn't just then disappear Pennywise. I like that.
Yeah.
That the clown, is, at least seemingly, kind of, we're locked in for at least one good clown set piece, going forward.
It's the main attraction, the big tent.
Yeah, and we're in the Endgame,
circus terms.
We can't back out now. Yeah. But I mean, it's so effective. I mean, the dude's just so good at playing Pennywise. What can I say? He's magnetic when he's in that makeup and that outfit. So
I love his voice, the warble in his voice. The "Hello, Mabel, you finally came." There's something so alluring but disturbing about it. It's like a scab you can't stop picking. So
and by the way, that's one of my favorite moments, where he just comes in, completely ignores the adult in the room for that entire bit, hands her the balloon, and then he seems to register her late, where she goes, "And you brought a friend," or whatever, and he looks up at her, and then when he realizes who she is, because he doesn't know right away, and when she's like father or whatever, and he just goes, oh,
yeah,
he's
you see that recognition dawn on him. That's really fun, where he's like, "Ooh, I think he's probing her mind, right?" Because Pennywise gets into your head and figures out what's scary. And I think as he's doing the download on her, he's like, "Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, this is this is
I can use you."
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. Is she going to be used as like a Henry Bowers kind of thing for Pennywise, or is she just kind of off on her own thing? Because I get a Lewis Creed vibe from her too, where she's just really, no matter what, she's just wanting to get her loved one back, and doesn't matter who else. So she exists.
That's
somewhere
a great
between,
comp.
Somewhere between Lewis Creed and Trash Can Man, right?
Yeah, but he is the other tradition is in Henry Bowers, who is clearly an acolyte of Pennywise and gets drawn into this, or Ace Merrill and Needful Things.
It's not like he's calling out for his master, in the way that you would imagine, but he's so easily manipulated. And obviously she's going to be so easily manipulated too. Pennywise knows exactly what this woman wants. And it just so happens to be tied into his favorite form, so he'll use that, and feed off of those feelings and whatever misery she causes in the meantime. But I think we're getting into interesting territory. Like, if they stick the landing here, I think that'll really determine the success overall of the show. I have a lot of friends that have kind of tapped out on it. I don't know how it's playing beyond massive Stephen King nerds, but I think for us, it's just really interesting watching the Muschiettis play around in the sandbox and play around with Uncle Steve's other stuff.
Yeah,
and
the ratings seem to be good, so
yeah,
I think the casual fans are into it.
It seems to be, and I think that the It reveal was. The reveal of Pennywise last episode, I think, was a big thing. Again, I don't think you can drag people are getting a little impatient with it. So I'm happy that our boy's back. I'm happy that isn't limiting the other forms that it is taking. Yet it's still willing to be super messed up, and the whole sewer sequence last episode is a tribute to that, where sometimes you need a monster, sometimes all you need to do is bring a dude's wife into the sewer and have him shoot his wife, right? It's like, I don't know, I still dig the deviousness of Pennywise, and if they can stick the landing here, then I'm going to be very excited to see what they do for the next two, especially since they gave the hint last time that this is a calm cycle. So less kids have died, less people have disappeared this cycle than any other the previous one. So
they may have spoken too soon on that, but I think Pennywise is having a good year. Yeah. Pennywise business is booming for the for this entity, so we'll see. We'll see what happens next.
But if they're not wrong there, and the black spot does culminate, and it's still a calm cycle, what's that mean about the next 2 seasons? Right? That means it's only escalation. So we're only going to get more brutal stuff going forward, and we know that Pennywise dates back at least to the 1900s, right? So we're going to be getting Dat Boy in the 1930s, and we'll get Dat Boy in the in the 1900s, I guess, for season 3.
For sure, we will.
All right. Well, I think that we've kind of covered everything we want to cover in this one. Yeah. So we didn't talk about Leroy hitting Will, which wasn't great. No. For that character, obviously, I think it's perfectly fine, to show that stuff in dramatic forms, but it's he's losing it a little bit, but yeah, other than that, I think
his great fear is somebody harming his kid, and then he commits the harm this time. But you have to have, at this point in the story, a breakdown between your heroes.
Right.
Will and his dad have to have a fracture. The losers are turning on each other, and I think we'll see some reunions and some reconciliation as well.
I bet you we will too. But I guess we'll see y'all for the next episode of It. Welcome to Derry, and Brez and I will be watching it. So we'll see you on the next one.